to be making a wild mushroom risotto, which is basically like a vegetarian dish, out of a vegetarian cookbook a good friend of mine got for me. I bought all the ingredients at a local market, and it sounds really good, so if you want a nice wild mushroom risotto, make one with me. Alright, now you need to take a small bowl, and then you need 2 ounces of dried porcini or morel mushrooms. The ones I had at my local market were a little expensive, so I only got 1 ounce of them, but you need 2 ounces of dried porcini or morel mushrooms. So if you can dry them yourself, or if you can find them cheap, definitely get the whole 2 ounces. And now we need to add boiling water to these, enough to cover them. So I heated up 2 cups, so that should be enough. Okay, some nice boiling water. Just enough to cover them, it said. And this covers them. And then it says let them soak for 30 minutes. Alright, you need 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, finely chopped. So I got some 3 decently sized cloves here. Good technique for garlic is put the wide side of your blade on it, smash it. This will help you peel it. It says finely chop them. Okay, now we need to chop an onion. So I like to cut it in half and then follow the lines. When you have about 10 minutes left on your mushrooms soaking in the boiling water, take a saucepan enough to hold 1 1/4 quarts, 40 ounces of vegetable stock, and then we're going to start it on medium heat. We just needed to get to a simmer. So here's the first 32 ounces. There we go. We also need 4 ounces of freshly grated Parmesan. This is Parmesan Reggiano. It's really good, so we need 4 ounces of this. You can do more or less depending on how much you like cheese. I love it, so I'm probably going to do a lot more. So yeah, just find a nice grater that you like to use. This one works pretty well. There you go, about 4 ounces of grated Parmesan. Take a medium to large skillet. I would say put it over medium or medium-high heat, and add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I only have extra virgin olive oil, so that's what I'm going to use. But if you have regular olive oil, go for it. Alright, 3 tablespoons. Dried mushrooms have been soaking for half an hour. It says, take them out, use a slotted spoon or something differently, and pat them dry. Now that these are all out, we can pat them dry. It's also good advice when cleaning mushrooms. They're not cleaned already, the ones you have. Don't just rinse them underwater. Pat them dry with a wet towel. Pat them with a wet towel and then pat them dry. Okay, those are pretty good. Now what it said to do is take a strainer like this and then pour your the liquid you use to soak the mushrooms through it. Make sure you line it with a paper towel. This will really help catch anything and make sure it's just the liquid remaining. As you can see, this is smoking a decent amount. I would consider this a nice simmer because it's not boiling, but it's not just room temperature either. It's really close to a boil. The olive oil is really heated up. We need to add 18 ounces, which is 1 pound and 2 ounces, of fresh sliced wild mushrooms, which can be horse mushrooms, chanterelles, porcinis. Really any kind of mushroom you like. Then we're going to stir fry these. So as you can hear them simmer. My skillet's fairly large enough. Not even really. You want a bigger skillet than that even. But these will shrink down as you cook them. Stir fry these, it said, for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, at this point they're starting to brown a little. They can go a little further, but this recipe, they get cooked a few more times, so I think they'll be alright. Normally you'd probably want to go a little tinier than this. So now let's add our 3 to 4 cloves of minced garlic. And our 2 ounces of soaked mushrooms. In my case, it's just 1 ounce. And continue stirring this around for another 2 minutes. Alright, we're getting close to our 2 minutes on this, and it says once you've cooked it for the additional 2 minutes with the garlic and the soaked mushrooms, then move it to a plate and then put in 1 tablespoon of olive oil again and a tablespoon of butter, and then we're going to cook the onions in that. So we've got our plate over here. So let's move all this to a plate. Because we're going to be cooking rice, switch to a pan. Don't stick with your skillet. So we need a tablespoon of butter. And then a tablespoon of olive oil. Alright, at this point the butter and the olive oil have mixed well and they've heated up. So let's get our onion in there. Alright, and much like the mushrooms, we're kind of stir frying these onions. You can turn down the heat a little if you want. You're stirring them until tender, which basically means they're a lot softer. And with onions, they'll go translucent, so you'll see them kind of turn clear, and that's how you know they're ready. At this point, the onions are getting pretty soft, so lower the temperature. I would say go to like a medium-low. And then you need to add 1 3/4 or 1 1/2, it's up to you, cups of Arborio rice. Stir that in there as well. And it says continue cooking these until the grains are translucent. So pretty see-through, probably even more see-through than the onion was. So just make sure you keep stirring it and keep cooking it for a little bit. This has been cooking for about 5 minutes. They look pretty clear, but they are pretty translucent to begin with. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that's alright. I mean, we will continue cooking them in a liquid for 20 minutes, so I'm sure it will soften up. Now you need 2 fluid ounces of dry white vermouth, which is alcoholic, so you do have to be over 21 to buy it. So 2 ounces of that. Stir that in. It says for a minute. Cook it for a minute until it's reduced, which means it cooks out. Obviously, you don't want to leave it in, or else you could, have alcohol in your food, and you don't want that. It's good for flavor, but you don't want to get drunk off eating. So just stir it till it all cooks out. It's like a white wine, basically. So if you're familiar with that smell. So continue stirring for about a minute. You can go a minute or 2 or 3 if you want. Okay, now at this point, once you've reduced out your dry white vermouth, we're going to take our simmering vegetable stock and add about a ladleful of it at a time. We're going to stir it in, but don't add another ladle until it's been completely absorbed by the rice. And it says at this point, increase your heat again to medium. You want the liquid to boil. Alright, I'm on my second ladle here. And if you leave it alone for a while, you'll see that the liquid does bubble over a nice medium heat. And it's going to start to get more creamy. So just slowly stir it. Don't pour all your liquid in at once, just go ladle by ladle. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes, and as you can see, the rice has soaked it up. It's bigger, it's soft, the liquid is mostly gone. It's very creamy at this point. Now it says to add back in, well, first it says to add half of what you soaked the mushrooms in. You know, more or less depending on how much you need. I think that's good. And then to add the mushroom stir fry. So now that this is all in there, let's stir this around for a few minutes. It says at this point you can season it too. So I'm going to do a few dabs of sea salt. And some pepper. And stir that in there. So once you like where it's at, take it off the heat. Make sure you turn off your stove. It says add your remaining butter, which is 1 tablespoon. So stir that in. Try to cut it apart if you can. I tried to cut mine apart, but it kind of lumped back together due to heat. Alright, I made a large bowl for myself. It's fresh off the stove. Let's try some. It's really hot still, but I can already tell it's really good. Obviously, if you're not a fan of mushrooms, don't make this dish. It's wild mushroom risotto. If you do like mushrooms, it's really good. It's very creamy, tastes strongly like mushrooms, got a very earthy flavor. The dry vermouth gives it like a nice background. The cheese is good. You can taste a hint of it. Personally, I would leave some off to the side, sprinkle some on the top. The rice is good. It's very filling, very warm, full of like good texture, mushroom flavor. So, if you want a nice wild mushroom risotto, look no further.